Who knew that Ian Anderson, frontman for the seminal rock group Jethro Tull, was a space aficionado? The icon singer and flautist, who grew up during the Cold War, was impacted as much by events in the America-Russia space race as his fellow baby boomers. Over the years, he has even written space references into his tunes. Welcome to Space Stories at the Explorers Club, Ian. We are honored and wish you were here in person, but we understand you're performing in Pennsylvania today.
That is correct, yes. I am needed elsewhere. Otherwise, I would love to be there.
Well, we've got a lot of astronauts in the audience and space people. So I think the first question people want to know is, what got you interested in space in the first place?
Well, it was, as you rightly said, growing up at a time when we just come out of a fairly meaningful world war, and us young kids growing up in the 50s were aware of, first of all, the incredible cultural significance of America's presence in the world at that time, its obvious aid to Britain in coming into the war, and without whom, I think, pretty clear we wouldn't have won. So we, first of all, had that sense of indebtedness to the USA, but it led to a fascination with what was going on as things developed over those next few years, the impact of American culture, of TVs and movies, and then, of course, the rise of the Cold War tensions, the development of rocket science, and where that took us. I suppose by the time that I was 10 years old, I was devouring anything to do with rocket ships and the earliest forms of science fiction, which were becoming largely, again, as a result of American science fiction writers available in the UK. So into my teens, I suppose I got to know a lot of fanciful notions about rocketry and interplanetary travel, but knew that it was intrinsically a little overly optimistic within my lifetime, and so I suppose I concentrated a bit more on the evolution of what was really happening out there, and the momentous words of your ex-president JFK when he said, "We choose to go to the moon and do these other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard," which became a bit of a motto in my life. I took great notice of that. It resonated with me as a schoolboy, and along with the motto of my old school in Latin, Meliora Sequamur, which means let us follow better things. So there was a kind of a duality and optimism about those two mottos, and that sort of guided me through those years. And by the time I got to visit America for the first time in 1969, of course, that was the year of Neil, Buzz, and Michael's expedition, and the excitement that the world felt on that momentous day. And I think, for once, the world gathered and congratulated America. It's probably as close as America has ever come to having universal approval and everybody buying into that little sense of ownership of we, Homo sapiens, got there. We, Homo sapiens, did it, regardless of whether we were Americans, Brits, or even Ruskies. So, yeah, we all shared in that great moment.
Well, you were, I guess, so interested in that moment that you wrote a song called For Michael Collins Jeffrey, I think on the Benefit album?
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, we just touched upon that essence of, I suppose, the lonely man in the command module, Michael Collins, who tends to be rather forgotten. But, of course, it was more or less drawing of straws as to who got to put the boot prints on the lunar surface, and the guy who probably had, in some ways, the most unenviable job is Michael Collins. Of course, we now know that contingency plans had to be there for what happened if the other two guys didn't make it back. Then he would have had to have tried to return alone to planet Earth. That made him, I think, in those tortuous hours that he was alone in the command module, certainly the loneliest man in the known universe, facing that possibility that he might have to leave his buddies behind.
Given all your interest in space, do you have any interest in spending some money with the Russians to fly up to the space station?
No, if you ask me to climb up some step ladders to get something from the top shelf, I'm probably going to try and find a a willing alternative volunteer, because I have no head for heights. So I think even getting me to the top of a Soyuz rocket, I think I'd already be suffering from so much vertigo. I wouldn't be going anywhere. So no, I am not made of the right stuff. I am pretty much 98% the wrong stuff.
Well, your flute has certainly been up to space, and you and your astronaut friend Cady Coleman did a flute duet on Yuri Gagarin's 50-year flight anniversary in 2011. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience, and then do the honor of introducing Cady to our audience of explorers and astronauts here today at Space Stories?
Certainly will. Well, it was somehow, I think, through somebody in the radio world in Texas who knew a friend or got to know a friend of Cady's, that sort of relationship, passed the word to me that she was a keen amateur flute player, and that maybe I might want to get in touch with her, which I did, and it was arranged that she would take not only my flute, but her flute, because I pointed in the right direction to spend her entire annual astronaut salary on buying a shiny new flute to take into the ISS mission with her. So she had my flute, her flute. She also had, I believe, a flute from one of the Chieftains, an Irish folk band, and a penny whistle of another member of the Chieftains. So she went heavily armed with weapons of mass destruction in her very, very small allowance of personal cabin baggage.
Tonight, Ian Anderson and I would like to honor Yuri Gagarin for his brave journey 50 years ago, and we would like to celebrate the role that humans play in the exploration of our universe, past, present, and future, by sharing some music between Earth and space.
Ladies and gentlemen of planet Earth, please give a warm welcome to that space rock chick of the flute, cuddly Cady on the outside, but a steely-eyed, hard-nosed professional underneath. Look out! Hide your T-38s! Here comes Colonel Catherine Coleman!